Sir, when you were appointed, one of the most significant tasks assigned to the CDS and the DMA was to theaterize the forces, and the process has been going on for a long time. What is the current status, and how far have we moved in this direction, sir?
Well, I would suggest that the theaterization process is going on well. It is making satisfactory progress. Amongst the three services, we have been able to resolve most of the issues. You know, whenever there is change, there is always a resistance to change, because there is a tendency amongst some people to think that they are likely to lose something without remembering what in the long term they are likely to gain. But I think that is now all over. There is understanding between the three services as to how we have to move forward. There is also better understanding that if the three services integrate, bring about jointness and carry out transformation, then I think we will be able to ensure better efficiency, better utilization of our existing resources, both in terms of our weapons, equipment and manpower. We will also be able to optimize on the resources, and I think we will be better prepared for combat or the future, because we have to now start looking at other kind of warfare, that is non-contact warfare. Not only are we to be prepared for attrition warfare, but we have to start now looking at cyber warfare, psychological aspects, information warfare, expanding into the space domain. We have to create special operation forces which should be able to carry out quick, swift operations against the adversary. So there is a need for change and integration. I think we are moving in the right direction.
When this structure is ready, how will the forces look like? How many theaters would be created, and how will they help us in fighting the wars of the future?
Well, we will have a theater looking after the air defense. We have always maintained that air defense is becoming more and more complex. There are large users of airspace. It is not just the aircraft and helicopters that operate in the skies above. We now have drones, we have UAVs, we have missiles, we have long-range artillery guns, all of which are using the airspace. Now, there is a requirement of one agency to control and ensure that the airspace management does not lead to fratricide. If we do not manage the airspace, we are likely to target each other with our own weapon systems. And I think therefore to coordinate all that, we need one agency to look after the air defense of our airspace above. Then we have a very large border along the coastline and the high seas, which is the Indian Ocean region. We have island territories there. We need to ensure that we have one organization looking for that, and that can best be done by creating a maritime command or whatever name we call it, but somebody who looks after the oceans and the coastline. And then of course we have to look at the land-based theatres, which is the western and the eastern theatres, looking after two adversaries on the west and the north. So that is the way forward we are looking at. How the final structure will evolve will only happen after we have created the initial organization which will be responsible for creating the final structures of the theatre, which will take some time. But our aim is to ensure that we at least get the government approval for the creation of the theatres in the manner in which we wish to achieve them. So that process is on. We need government support. We need to have consultative mechanism within the DoD with the other agencies involved. And finally, let me assure you, we will come out with structures that are best suited to Indian conditions.
And sir, there have been certain reports coming out which say that the process of theaterization may get delayed because of need for wider consultation. Do you think, sir, you are moving well within your timelines and would be able to achieve that?
Well, as I said, wider consultation is required, because as of now we have carried out consultations within the services, but we do need some support from the Department of Defense, from the MHA, because there are a lot of MHA forces also which operate along with us. So we are now talking to them, but I do not really think there will be a delay, because while this consultative mechanism is on, it is all moving at a fairly rapid pace, and the movement so far has been very satisfactory.
We had seen that when you were the Chief of Army Staff in Jammu and Kashmir, we saw the abrogation of Article 370, and you were involved in keeping the things quiet in the state. Now, last 4 months, we have seen that the ceasefire with Pakistan is holding very much, and there has not been a single incident since then. Now the political process has also started there, where some people are demanding that now peace is there and talks should be held with Pakistan also. Do you think that the moment has come when the Pakistan army can be trusted and we can have talks with them?
Well, the ceasefire so far along the line of control is holding, which is a very positive sign. But at the same time, we are also witnessing infiltration of weapons and ammunition using drones, which does not augur well for peace, because all these weapons and ammunition and drugs that are being sent into our country through drones are obviously meant to disrupt the internal peace process. And if the internal peace process is disrupted, then really we cannot say that the ceasefire is holding, because ceasefire does not mean that you ceasefire along the borders, but you at the same time create trouble in the hinterland. We would like semblance of peace in the entire state of J&K. I am very confident the people of J&K themselves want peace. They have seen a lot of terrorism and insurgency over the years. The people are now looking at peace returning, especially after the abrogation of Article 370. It has now started dawning on the people that all this that has happened and what the action the government has taken is for the benefit of the people of J&K and for the state. And if this continues, the time will not be far when the people themselves will shun violence and will not allow insurgency to remain in the valley, because insurgency or terrorism cannot survive without the support of the local people. So I think time has now come for us to support the local people, take the process forward. Some of the youth who have been misled, I think we need to identify them and see how best we can converse with them and explain to them that terrorism is not the way forward. The way forward is peace and tranquility. Everybody can live happily in Kashmir. Everybody can live happily in Kashmir as a part of the Indian Union. They should be free to travel to any part of the country. Our people should be able to see the tranquility and the scenic beauty of Kashmir in a very peaceful environment. I think our people are very keen on visiting Kashmir because they have heard a lot of Kashmir. Large number of the younger generation have not been able to visit the Kashmir Valley. All this will happen if peace returns. There will be integration of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh completely with the Union of India.
While Pakistan is holding ceasefire on the LOC, but is continuously pushing drones to supply weapons and ammunition to the terrorists on the Indian side, why do you think the Pakistan army is agreeing to the ceasefire? What is the pressure on them?
Well, there could be many factors. First, the past couple of years there has been extensive violation of ceasefire, where there have not only small arms but even higher caliber weapons have been used. It has caused immense damage and destruction to the Pakistan Army's defensive infrastructure. Their soldiers have suffered casualties. Since the soldiers are operating very close to the villages, you find that some of the posts are, as I would say, co-located with the forward villages. So sometimes even the forward villages, the people living in these villages, their cattle, their fields get affected, just as it happens in our case. But in our case, we are well separated from the civilian population. Now, when that happens, pressure also comes from the civilian to ceasefire. That could be one of the reasons. One is their own damage that has been caused, pressure from the civilians. Today, Pakistan's western front is also very active. And the internal security situation is also not in a very happy situation. So I think if you look at all these issues that are presently causing trouble to Pakistan, it would have dawned on their leadership that the best way forward is to seek peace with India. And I think if they seek peace with India, and this is long-lasting peace, it will be good for both the countries, more so for Pakistan.
Sir, the other front, On the LAC, we have seen in the recent past that last year after the standoff took place, this year again the Chinese have come back in heavy numbers to their training areas. While for the last 1 year, all three services from the Indian side have also been highly prepared and they have been deployed there. Do you think there's any possibility of the Chinese bringing any surprise this time?
See, training is an activity which all armies carry out during peacetime. Chinese are also carrying out training activities just like we carry out a training activities. In the case of the Chinese, their deployment on the border with India has undergone a change, especially after the incidents that happened in Galwan and other areas in, I would say, May and June of 2020. So thereafter they have realized that they need to be better trained, they need to be prepared. Their soldiers are mainly, they come from the civilian street, they are enlisted for short durations. They don't have much experience of fighting in these kind of areas, operating in this kind of terrain as obtains in Tibet and the Tibet Autonomous Region of China. It is very difficult country. It is mountainous region. You need specialized training for this, in which our soldiers are very adept because we have a lot of mountain warfare training. We operate in the mountains. We continuously maintain our presence, and regularly our soldiers keep operating in these areas. Whereas for the Chinese, it is not so. So they have to carry out preparation, and I think it is part of that preparation that they are carrying out training activity. We have to keep our guard and keep a watch on all the activities of the Chinese. In doing so, we have to maintain alert and presence along the LAC.
Sir, 1 year we have seen a lot of change in terms we used to deploy our military. Now, instead of one mountain strike corps, we have 2 strike corps focusing on China. In terms of deployment and deployment of both troops and equipment, can we say that the LAC is becoming the new LOC and China is the main adversary?
Well, we have always maintained a kind of a posture where we have dual tasker troops. That means troops who are deployed along the northern borders are capable of operating on the western borders, and we also have the capability of moving troops from the western borders to the northern borders. So now what we have done is, yes, we have earmarked some additional troops for the northern borders. So I would not like to say that have we raised 2 strike corps. No, that is not the way forward. But yes, we have committed some additional troops to our northern borders because we do find that the northern borders are becoming more active and are actually becoming our primary threat for us.
Sir, last question, sir. You are the senior most military officer. For you, for the Chief of Defence Staff, which is main priority, sir? The northern front or the western front?
I would say both fronts remain priority for us because while we have to be prepared on the northern front along our northern borders, especially after the situation that evolved in 2020, we cannot lower our guard. But on the western front, as I said, and I've always maintained that there are terrorists who operate along with the Pakistan Armed Forces. Some of these terrorists can actually become loose cannons, and can create a situation which could suddenly lead to an escalation. And so to be prepared for such a situation escalating, we have to be also prepared on our western borders. So it is very difficult to say where we should be prepared. I would say we have to keep our guards up on both our borders, but of course the primary front remains the northern front.
नमस्कार, मैं हूं मानक गुप्ता। अगर आपको हमारा ये वीडियो पसंद आया हो तो इसे लाइक और शेयर जरूर करें, और हां, हमें सब्सक्राइब और फॉलो करना ना भूलें ताकि आप देश और दुनिया की कोई खबर मिस ना करें। तो जुड़े रहिए हमारे साथ और देखते रहिए न्यूज़ 24।